So for this demo, we're going to learn how to shade the iris for dimension and detail, and then we'll also learn how to put on eyelashes, shade in an eyebrow bone or a brow bone, and an eyebrow. So here you can see an example of an iris shaded. I just wanted to start here so you have some kind of vision of where we're going to end up. But now I'm going to switch over my paper to my drawing from yesterday. And here it is. Let me just get that set up. Okay, so very different because I have the sides shaded in and around, but it's going to end up looking fairly similar. I've already got my pupil set up and the highlight here. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to, with a very firm pressure, start to fill this in. And I might leave a little bit more area of highlight somewhere in here as well. I like a lot of highlight on an eye, just kind of heightens that realism for me. So you can play around with that. And I'm using the pencil now, but for most of this, we are going to be using a smudge stick, and you will want a small eraser, like a cap eraser or like on a pencil eraser, and not such the big ones that the school provided. Okay, so now I have this filled in. I'm going to work on smudging this, and what I want to point out is that your pupil is like a hole, kind of like if you think of that center of a volcano, and around it is a rim. So I'm going to really smudge that out a little bit and let it kind of fade and get fuzzy. And then I might come in to that highlight just a little bit so it's not quite so large. And I'll play with that more. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my smudge stick and I'm going to come along the rim of the iris to darken it, because it's the dark line around your eye. And I'm going to start really emphasizing the shadow that my eyelid here is casting and coming around the rim here. So I'm just establishing some shading here. I'm going to bring it in a little bit here, and I'm feathering it out. So blending as I go. And then I need to build that up a little bit more because you can see it's pretty gray. So I'm going to come in here with my pencil, especially at the top here. Bring some of that graphite down. And then I'm going to come back in and really darken it. And I'm contouring, meaning I'm going in a round way, not straight across. And I'm going to bring a little bit of shading down on this edge too. All right, so now I'm starting to see some dimension. Okay. And I want to clean up this highlight just a little. Get rid of that line, and I'm going to get rid of the lines on either side of that highlight. Okay, so I've got the outside. Now, I'm going to come in, and along this edge, I'm going to feather this even more. So I'm bringing out, I'm going to draw it for you, but I would avoid outlining. There's this little, like, almost like a flower shape around the very edge of your eye, and I'm just going to suggest it. I'm not going to draw it. I'm going to smudge it with my smudge stick, bringing that shape, because you can see the difference here where it looks more natural and here it looks more drawn. So you want to do it with your smudge stick. Then I'm going to lightly, but not a lot of pressure, bring some shading up towards that, leaving areas of white in between. As I do that, I'm going to look back and forth, think about like what can get darker. Okay. And this is a pretty light eye. It's like if someone had like hazel eyes or green or blue. I haven't done a really, like if you're doing like for instance, I have very dark brown eyes. You don't see as much detail. So I'm bringing, you can see I'm leaving areas of white as I fill this in. That's what's giving us that detail in the eye. And we're just implying the detail, we're not drawing too much of it. So again, what you want to do most of this with your smudge stick. Really avoid adding any detail with a pencil, because that can get a little bit cheesy, or it looks drawn instead of blended. And then I can pull out a little bit more highlight, and I'm going to work this a little darker here to really emphasize the shape of the eye along the edge. And up here I'm going to continue to darken. Oops, I just hit the camera with my pencil. Sorry, it's going to shake for a second. And blend that in just a little bit more. Bring it around, diffuse the sides. And I have a shaded iris. I can spend some more time kind of perfecting this, but for time's sake, I'm going to stop here, and we're going to move on to establishing the brow bone and the eyebrow, and then we'll come back to lashes. So your eyebrow, so this is the corner nearest the nose. Your eyebrow is going to come, if I feel my eyebrow and I bring it down, it lines up with this corner. So I'm going to draw a line up, and I have to decide how high my eyebrows are. If they're way up here, that's not going to look good. So you have to kind of figure that out and then follow the curve. And you're just lightly figuring out your shape. And you're going to adjust it till you like it. It's going to get thinner. On this side, our eyebrows get thinner towards the corners. Right? And you have to really decide what you want that eyebrow shape to be, but usually it follows the shape of the eye pretty much. Okay, so now that I've kind of established that, I'm going to come in and I'm going to work my shading up towards the eyebrow, just like we did here. Okay, so it's going to go in a round way using the side, and I'm going to let it be lighter towards the center. So imagine the nose is over here. And I'm really focusing on using my smudge stick more than my pencil. Now that my smudge stick has a lot of graphite on it, I can really draw with it. And then come up, and it's going to have a little bit of shadow under the eyebrow, and then it's going to come out this way. I'm going to tone down that highlight. Never leave a highlight purely white. Always give it a little tone. And then I'm going to work in that crease just a little bit more. I'm going to think about, like, is there going to be a little bit of texture with the skin? Your eye skin can get kind of crinkly, especially if you smile or laugh a lot. And then I can take my eraser. This I might have overshaded, so I'm going to bring some of that in and refine. Oops, again I'm hitting the let me straighten that out. Everything's kind of tilted as I've been drawing for you. I apologize. Someday I'll become a better videographer, but hopefully I won't have to. Hopefully we'll resume in person in the future. No, we will, but at least by next year. So I'm refining some other parts of my work as I work around. Okay. And bring that around. And bring some of the shading here to define that crease up the side here. So as you're putting in that brow bone, you're gonna notice things you wanna change about your drawing, and you can go ahead and do that. That's part of refining your work and revising it as you go. And it's nice when you have, like when you've drawn part of it one day and then you come back to it the next day, then it's easier. All right, so now I have a pretty well established brow bone. It's darker in the corner, it gets lighter and then slightly darker, but not as dark over here, because remember your nose is casting a shadow into the corner of your eye. And now I want to demonstrate for you how to add hair to your eyebrow. So the key is to make it not look overworked. So I would suggest coming up here and practicing flicking little hairs overlapping like this. And they curve with the shape, but some of them might stick up, right? Those errant hairs that like every once in a while you're like, oh, maybe I should pluck that hair. It's a little long, it's sticking up funny, right? Because you want it to look natural. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm drawing these little hairs, curving them, overlapping them, and going very slowly. Thinking about how they move, thinking about this person, like, are they groomers? Do they groom their eyebrows, or are their eyebrows a little more untamed? And then as I'm going, I can come in and, especially towards the bottom, but leaving some highlight, start to blend them in just a little bit. Right now, one of my problems is they're too light, and you'll want to really sharpen your pencil for that. And part of the problem is my pencil may be a little under sharpened. Unfortunately, I left my pencil sharpener in my daughter's room and she's asleep. So this is the trials that I should have thought through a little bit, but we'll work it out. And then if you get overly gray, and pull out some highlight. You can draw with your eraser, pulling out that hair. And this is the part that's gonna maybe take the most time, because you're gonna work back and forth, pulling it out. So, and I'm gonna try to, and here I'm gonna flatten it out. And so they curve longer here as they come along the edge. And so it doesn't look like they're filling in the shape. You see how my outline has disappeared and it's been replaced. And this kind of line making is like, kind of like hatching lines, overlapping them, moving them in different directions. And then again, you can come in and just lightly tap it with your smudge stick, just to blend slightly, not too much. Even bring that out. Okay, so now we are getting an eye. I'm trying to make that straight for you guys. All right, so I can keep refining this, but again, I don't want to keep you guys in a video for too long. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna teach you how to do eyelashes. So again, eyelashes are like the hairs on your eyebrows, but they are little flicks of the wrist, okay? And your eyelashes get longer towards the edge here and shorter here. So what I'd like to do is just come in, and they're gonna grow out of that waterline and just establish they're thicker on the edges, so I'm making these little triangles and then pulling the line up. And these are my anchors. They always curve towards the sky, and they, even though they're pretty long, they are going to be different lengths. So I'm just putting on a few here. Again, these are my anchors. These are the ones that are gonna really stand out. And then I'll fill in the rest. So I can still see my waterline just a little bit below. And if you need to, just define the edge of the eye here. Okay. And the pencil I was using before was a little bit too gray, so make sure you, okay. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start flicking other eyelashes in between. Now for this one, I feel like I got too tall. You don't wanna look at, like too fake, like someone's wearing fake lashes. So make sure you tone down your anchors if you need to. I feel like I overdid them because I was talking. I feel like this one here, too much, and this one here, too much. So I'm just toning it down. Mistakes are made and corrected. So just blend that out. And then flick over them, always making sure your lashes have a curve to them. And they curve more outwards this way. And overlapping, thick and thin. Okay. So I still need to kind of refine this area of the crease where my lashes kind of got messed up. And honestly, the lashes are the hardest part. They're gonna take some time. I would use a mechanical pencil if you have one. My mechanical pencil is not working right now, it's out of lead. And I'm coming in here and just going over, blending it a little. And then coming in and adding. You don't want too many. And look how I don't go to the very edge. I'm going to leave some of that space for the eye to fill in, because if you go all the way around, it kind of ends up looking like a bug. So these are not the best lashes I've ever done, unfortunately, but that happens, and I'm gonna keep reworking them, but by darkening up the lash line. And then it's because I pressed too hard with the pencil, so be careful. Give yourself the ability to erase, learn from my mistake there. And I think I'm gonna stop there because I don't want to overwork it. But so there you have, I'm just gonna darken the eyebrow right up here. So I'm saying I'm not gonna overwork it, and then I go back and see more stuff I can do. And that's kind of the nature of drawing, is there's always something you see that can be fixed or refined. Okay, so go slowly, work calmly, take frequent breaks if you get stuck or frustrated, and practice on the side of your notebook, all those little hairs, and even you could do a practice eye of the iris before you shade in yours. One last thing I want to point out is you could, if your eye is a little bit too gray, you can also pull out some highlight in the white of the eye. Okay, and along the ridge here, I could even pull out a little bit. All right, guys, I'm going to stop there, so I don't want to take up any more of your time. And good luck with this. And of course, always reach out for feedback and additional help if you need it.